Greetings guys, gals, non-binary pals, and welcome back to another video. Over the last little while, there has been an increase in trad wife content that exists on the internet, more specifically on TikTok. There is a lot of glamorizing the trad wife lifestyle, and that is especially prevalent and shown right now through this woman named Nara Smith, who will not get off my Twitter timeline. I'm sure by now you've all come across her at least once. Myself personally, I see Nara Smith on Twitter at least once a day. I either see one of her videos, I see people talk about her, or I see people parody her. Every single day for the past at least like 6 weeks to 2 months. She is everywhere. She has gained millions of followers. She gets millions of views per TikTok. And it is just such a fascinating thing to watch because a lot of people have a lot to say and there's a lot of yelling about it and arguing and conversations that are being had. And I want to contribute. I want to talk about it as well. So that's what we're going to do today. If you don't know who Nara Smith is, basically she is a 23-year-old model and mother of two, stepmother to one, who is currently pregnant again. She is married to a model named Lucky Blue Smith, whom is very successful and has a lot of fans and has for a long time. And he's done a lot of big projects and worked with a lot of people. And he is Mormon. And so when Nora married him, she obviously had to convert to Mormonism herself, because that's the deal. You marry a Mormon, you become a Mormon, that's how it works. And her TikToks keep blowing up and keep getting millions of views and making their rounds all over the internet. She makes glamorous videos of her being in her kitchen and making food from scratch. In a world where we are worked to the bone and we barely have time to make ourselves dinner, let alone make bread from scratch every day, content like this seems really, really appealing. And so a lot of people tune in to watch it under the idea that it is not harmful at all because she is just cooking. And the videos that she uploads revolve around this, but they revolve around it in a really specific way. She glams herself up entirely. She wears like really nice like dresses with her hair and makeup done in this nice big empty clean kitchen, and she cooks everything from scratch. And that is the content that is most popular of hers and that makes the rounds the most on social media. It's TikToks like this where her kids ask for cereal for breakfast, so she makes cereal from scratch.
This morning I asked my toddlers what they wanted for breakfast and they both said cereal, so cereal it was and we got started right away. I made 2 types of cereal. The first one was chocolate chip cookie cereal, so I mixed some flour, peanut butter, maple syrup, milk and chocolate and formed that into a dough. Then I rolled tiny little balls and flattened them out to resemble little cookies. I put all of them on a baking sheet and then popped that in the oven for about 10 to 13 minutes. Pulled that out and let that cool while I started on my second type of cereal. The cereal was a Cocoa Puff cereal, so I did oat flour, maple syrup, cocoa powder, some nut butter, and gave that a really good mix. Then I formed that into a ball, cut that in 4 pieces, and then started assembling my small little Cocoa Puff balls. I didn't want to flatten these out, so I just laid them on the baking sheet like this and put those in the oven as well for about 10 minutes. Once those were done, I let those cool as well and then assembled my little bowl of cereal with my Cocoa Puffs and my cookies, topped that with milk, and that's what they had for breakfast.
And this is obviously quite funny for a number of reasons. One being, imagine asking for cereal and then waiting hours just to get a bowl of cereal for breakfast. And also, it's not even cereal. This is just cookies in milk. That's not cereal. That's just cookies and milk. So she makes a lot of content like this. And the debate around all this content is it harmful? Because there are a lot of people who are talking about it and calling it out for being harmful, for brainwashing people, for just being something that is incredibly negative and problematic. And then there is the alternative to that, with people saying that it is harmless and all she is doing is cooking and there is nothing wrong with it at all. And this is sort of where we're at. This is the conversation that is being had. Now, I do understand the perspective of the surface level of she's just uploading cooking videos, she's not harming anyone. Like, on one hand, yes, that is true. On a surface level, all she is doing is uploading cooking videos. But when you look at it a little bit closer and a little bit deeper, you realize that it is not just uploading cooking videos. It is not just harmless, like, here's a recipe. It is selling a lifestyle. It is selling an idea. And the reason it gets so many views isn't because people are here watching her recipes and being inspired by the cooking she's doing. It's people wishing that they could be in her position. It is people longing for this life. It is people who are looking at someone who is able to have all the time in the world to make a toasted cheese sandwich from scratch, from the bread to the cheese, doing everything short of milking the cow.
I asked my toddlers what they wanted for lunch. They both wanted a grilled cheese. So that's exactly what I got started on. I got started by making my bread. This is a really simple no-knead recipe. You put all of your dry and wet ingredients into a bowl, give it a mix, and let it rise for 2 hours, which gives me enough time to start making my cheese. I combine some milk, citric acid, and rennet in my pot. Let that heat up, and then once it's solidified, I'd return it back to the heat and stir it gently before letting all the curds drain and then stretching it out. Stretch it until it's shiny and smooth and then put it back into that cooled whey. The kids love pesto, so I made a fresh basil pesto by putting some basil, pine nuts, some garlic, a splash of lemon juice into my food processor and blitzing it while slowly adding some olive oil, and then I finished it off with some Parmesan cheese. I set that aside and got my bread out. I scooped it onto my floured surface and gently formed it into a ball. It does not have to be perfect whatsoever, and then transferred it over to my parchment before letting it bake in my Dutch oven for about 30 minutes. You need butter on your grilled cheese, so I made a garlic and herb butter by whipping some heavy cream until it's separated, pressing out all the buttermilk, and then combining it with my garlic, herbs, and some flaky sea salt. I wrapped it up in some wax paper and let that chill in the fridge while I pulled out my bread and let that cool for a little bit. We like thick slices of bread in this house, so I cut 2 thick slices of bread, sliced up my mozzarella, and then spread some of that butter on my bread, pesto on top, layered on the mozzarella, added some more pesto on the other side, and also butter on the outside of the bread so it could get really crispy in the pan. I pull it out once it's crisp and the cheese has melted, and the kids absolutely devoured this.
And you see that, and of course you're like, oh my God, imagine having all the time to be able to do that. Because even when we aren't working, we're working, right? Like you have to cook, but you don't really have that much time to cook because you've already worked. And then after cooking, you have to clean and you have to do your laundry and you have to do all this. And if you're a parent, you also have to do the childcare, etc., etc. And it's selling this idea that being a trad wife means that you have all this time to just live leisurely. It means you have an entire day to make bread and cheese from scratch just to give lunch to your kids, where that is not practical. That's not what being a trad wife actually entails. You never see her clean. You never see her actually do any childcare. You don't see her go out and do the grocery shopping. You don't really see very much at all. Even when she does her like day in the life vlogs, there's never any cleaning or laundry or like chores being done.
And no, there's a lot of confusion when I say I have 3 or 2 kids. I have 2 biological kids, and then I have a stepdaughter. And when she's at our house, I obviously have 3 kids around me. So this was one of the mornings where we had her. This is my routine with 3 kids. Lately, we have fallen off of our habit of waking up early, so I made one of the most nostalgic breakfasts to me, which is some sourdough bread with some raw salmon on top, this honey mustard dill sauce, and some chives with some avocado. It is so good. I grew up eating it and have been craving it like crazy lately, so that's what I had for breakfast. Then I did my skincare. I had to make my bed. If I do not make my bed, my day isn't started in the right way. In order to feel a little bit more alive, I put on some makeup and did my hair. And then we got the kids all dressed and headed to the mall to get Rumble's ears pierced. We walked past this jewelry shop and I decided to get my ring cleaned, and oh my goodness, it made such a difference. And then when we got home, I immediately changed back into my pajamas, got in bed, and started reading while the kids took a nap.
The only thing she ever shows doing around the house is the cooking. And people see that, and obviously, that is something we all wish we had. We all wish we had the time to be able to do that. If I had the time to be able to make a toasted cheese sandwich from scratch, from the bread to the cheese, etc., think about what else I could do at that time. I could do literally anything, you know? So it's not about the fact that she's posting cooking videos. It's about why she's posting the cooking videos and what people are taking away from that. Because no one actually cares what she's cooking. It's just the fact that she's able to do that. And social media is a place of influence, right? She is an influencer and she is influencing people. TikTok is her main platform, and the main demographic on TikTok is people between the age of 10 and 18. And that is an age where you are easily influenced, and teenage girls, young girls, watch this content and, like, you know, they see this versus people who are working their asses off and still not being able to have time down. They're obviously going to be seeing this and being like, that looks so much easier. That looks so much better, because not only does she have money and her husband taking her out to do $10,000 shopping trips.
Today my husband insisted that we go to the mall and I get whatever I've been wanting. The first stop was Apple. I needed a new computer, so I got another MacBook Pro and then also an iPad case for my iPad. And then we made it to Bottega Veneta. I've been itching to come to this store and get a bag, but I couldn't decide. So we decided to just come back later. We got a little snack and then went to Louis Vuitton. I've been wanting to get a classic duffel bag for a while now, but I again was indecisive, so we went back to Bottega, and Lucky and the sales associate were trying so hard to help me just make a decision. So I finally decided to just get the chocolate brown bag. I was so excited, and then Lucky told me to just go back and get the duffel as well since we're already at the mall. So I got the duffel bag and got my initials hot stamped on the bag. At this point the mall was about to close, so I rushed into Sephora and just stocked up on some makeup products that I ran out of and called it a day.
And like, if you were a teenage girl, not even a teenager, this extends even further than that, honestly, and you see two different videos, right? You see a video of someone who is living in like a small flat, who barely has any downtime and is just trying to make ends meet, versus someone living in this like luxury house who's able to spend all their time cooking and having beautiful things. You're gonna prefer this one, right? Like, that obviously seems like the ideal option, and it is being sold as something so beautiful and obtainable. I also think that it is important to point out, and something that keeps coming up in conversation around her and other trad wives as well, is that a lot of churches, including the Latter-day Saints, are encouraging women to post this content on TikTok in order to convert people into their religions. And they don't even have to actively be voicing that that's what they're doing. It is subconscious. It is easy to make those connections. It is very easy for her to do her day in the life vlogs every now and then and be like, I start every day with my scriptures. That is the life that she lives. That is an important part of this leisure lifestyle that she is living. It is doing her scriptures, and it is enforcing the idea that that can equal this, you know? A lot of these trad wives do talk about their faith and how being godly helps get them this lifestyle, right? The most important things in life are my husband, my kids, and God. It is a tactic that has being used more and more. And I've seen a lot of people try to make the argument that no one is going to be converting into Mormonism or any other religion based off of this content that they're seeing on TikTok. But I don't think that's a fair thing to say. I know that that's something we would like to believe, but I don't think people really consider how much the subconscious messaging actually does impact the decisions you make in your life. If you are seeing these TikToks every single day and every day you see them and think like, wow, I would love to live that life. Wow, imagine having a life like this. Saying that a lot, saying over and over how much you are envious of this life, it does get to you. Saying the same thing and seeing the same thing over and over does change your perspective and your thought patterns, and that's what they rely on. And I mean, it's the same as like positive affirmations, right? Which I talk about a fair amount of, like, you say something enough times and you start to believe it. That is psychology. That is how it works. You say something enough times and you do start to believe it. So if you start telling yourself that this is something that you want, and you see it as a possibility, it's gonna start to get to you and it's going to start impacting decisions that you make. And sure, that's not gonna happen to everyone, obviously. Some people are able to watch these videos and separate from it and just be like, wow, it's quite impressive that she made this from scratch. Go off and carry on. But there are a lot of people who are in situations where life seems difficult and stressful or scary, or they're just like looking for answers for the future and they don't know what they want to do with their lives, etc. And they see this, it can have an impact on the decisions that you're making even further down the line, you know? And since it doesn't go into everything that is expected of a trad wife or a stay-at-home mother, house carer, etc., it's going to get a lot of people into situations that are not great, to say the very least. One of the dangers of this content and selling this idea of a life and showing how glamorous it is to be a trad wife is that it is setting people up for expectations. It is setting up that being a trad wife is something that is glamorous and to be desired and something that is easy and leisurely, and you have the entire day to cook and you have very little responsibilities. And that is just not at all what being a trad wife or a stay-at-home mom or a housekeeper, keeper of the home actually is, because it neglects all of the responsibilities of what other duties you have. I think that even though we know that it's a performance, we kind of trick ourselves into believing that it isn't. It's very easy to convince yourself that it is real and that it is actually easy because it's easier to believe that sometimes, especially people who don't really know much better. And a problem with promoting being a trad wife and doing all this is that a lot of the time, most of the time, the people who are making this content are people who are very young. Nara Smith is 23 with her third child on the way right now, you know, and it is something that you're encouraged to do pretty much immediately. You leave school, you don't get any qualifications, you just kind of get married and you start immediately. And you are handing over all responsibility to someone else, you know? You don't have qualifications, you don't have a way to earn your own money. You don't have any control over any finances or decisions other than decisions that happen within the home. And there was a video that went viral a few days ago of a woman who was married for 26 years to her husband, and she was a stay-at-home mom. She was a keeper of the home for 26 years. And she spoke about the struggles of that and the problem with that and why you shouldn't do what she did. And it is a very long TikTok, so I might trim it a little bit, but here that is.
I drove to the grocery store. I need to grab some milk and bread and a couple things, flipped open the pink app on my phone, and I've been sitting in my car crying ever since because I never have enough money. And why do I never have enough money? Because when I was a 19-year-old girl, I fell in love. My Mormon faith told me that I was supposed to be a stay-at-home mom. I got married. I started having babies. I dropped out of college. I never had a career. My first couple years of marriage, I decided that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, so I bought a windshield business. I was 20. And my Mormon stake president reminded me that women weren't supposed to work, so I quit my own business, handed it over to my husband, took my name off of it. I would work our family business throughout the next 24 years of my marriage, but I never got paid. I didn't have a salary. My name wasn't on it. I literally worked for room and board. I didn't even have a bank account. I should have said that in the beginning. I never had a bank account. He would give me little envelopes of cash to go grocery shopping with. So I found myself divorced at age 44 just 5 years ago, and within just a few months, I was living in my car. While he made about $250,000, he would eventually quit that job so that he wouldn't have to pay alimony and child support. He has only paid alimony one time ever. Right after my divorce, I remember being really confident about my ability to get a job, so I put together a resume. I remember one of the first interviews that I had as a management position for a windshield company, similar to the one that we had run. And the man actually laughing as he was interviewing me, like he was really sympathetic. He wasn't being a douchebag, but he was laughing. He told me in the interview, please don't apply for any more jobs like this. You are not qualified at all. You're not capable of doing this unless you go back to school and get your degree or get some different experience. And so I ended up, my first job after my divorce was $11 an hour, 4 hours a day, working as an assistant to a school teacher in an elementary school. I made $44 a day. It never bothered me once that my financial security was dependent on that man being in love with me. So I had my 5th surgery in 2 years, 2 weeks ago, and I'm supposed to be in bed resting, and I can't because I've worked 7 days a week since my divorce 5 years ago. I have no retirement. I have no savings, no education, no resume. We have to make this stop. Raise your daughters to be financially independent. Focus on their futures and educations just as much as you focus on your sons. I wish that someone had done that for me.
You are handing over all your freedom to someone else. And one day, if the marriage falls apart, you are going to be left floundering and struggling if you don't have anything to fall back on. And as this story tells, and many, many others, a lot of the time when these women get a bit older and they become less desirable and they're less like trophy wives, the men will leave because they want to find someone younger and more desirable because, you know, a lot of them have money and they are able to do that. They'll go and find another young person and repeat the cycle. And it leaves these women with no qualifications, no way to get jobs, and they've spent their entire adult lives being looked after and having someone pay for everything and earn the money and provide for them. And suddenly losing that, you don't really know what to do. There's not really very much you can do. And it must be the most horrible and distressing thing ever. And even if we look at the marriage before the likely implosion of it, giving someone control entirely over finances and your life, it is very, very easy to end up being abused and not being able to leave. If you are being put in a situation where you cannot care for yourself, they are aware that they can kind of do what they want and get away with it because what can you do? What can you do? If you don't have any qualifications or any work experience or any money to your name, you kind of don't have very much choice but to stay with them. Unless you have a really good family support network outside of your partner, you're kind of fucked, you know? Like, there's not very much you can do. So I think that even if you wanted to become a trad wife, or this is something you decide after you get married or after you have kids, etc., you should at the very least have some sort of qualification or job experience, some money to your name, something that is yours and that cannot be taken away from you. You should have like even a part-time job, something that is yours and money that is yours, and a way to leave if you need to. Like with Nara Smith, she does have her own money. I don't know if she controls her own money. I don't know. She hasn't spoken about that. But I know she does modeling, and I know she did modeling before she got married. So I know that she does have money herself. And if their marriage ended, she would likely be fine. But a lot of people aren't in that situation. They're not in a position to be able to get out of situations should they need to leave. And that is why it is so dangerous and problematic. I think that it is totally valid and normal to see content like Nara's and like other women like her and feel a little bit envious and taken advantage of by everything. I understand watching that content and having the desire to live that life and want to be in that position. I think that that is totally normal and a totally fair thing to think. And I just hope that people realize that it is just a dream. It is not a reality. It is not something that very many people are ever going to be able to achieve. This is not what being a trad wife looks like. Most trad wives, most stay-at-home mothers do not have millions of dollars. They do not have the luxury to stay home and make entire meals from scratch. That's not something that they are doing. It is so much more work than that. It is a massive job, and a lot of the time you are not going to be fully glammed up. That is not something you are going to be able to achieve. You are not going to be able to go out shopping and buying yourself designer clothes whenever you want. You aren't, that's not going to be your life. If you are dreaming of having a trad wife life, of being a stay-at-home mother, you've got the dream a little bit wrong. That's not how it's gonna play out for most people. I just want to pop in here to add that even if you are one of the few that end up in $1 million relationship where you can buy whatever you want and be glammed up and have all this time, that doesn't save you from the fallout. The woman in the TikTok from before, she was with a millionaire. She could do whatever she wanted. She could buy whatever she wanted. They went on holidays all the time. Those are the men who are more likely to leave you when you stop being desirable to them, because they're the ones who are going to go for someone younger because they can and start the cycle again because they can. So you are trapped in a completely different way to just being with a regular old Joe and doing all the work around the house. They are all trapping you in different ways. And that is an important thing to note and to recognize. And for a lot of people, not everyone, you end up being trapped in an abusive relationship or in an abusive religion or both. A lot of marriages end up being very toxic and leaving you without a way out. You end up getting divorced and with nowhere to go when you're older. And there are so many more negative outcomes than there are positive outcomes. And it's terrible, but that is unfortunately how it goes. And I know that working also kind of fucking sucks, and that doesn't work out great for a lot of people either. But at least you are falling back on yourself. You know what I mean? You are not reliant on anyone other than yourself. And I think that that is so much better than being reliant on someone else. If you want to be a stay-at-home mother, by all means, go ahead. But have something on the side as well. I would say have a job first, go to university, do something. Even the transformed wife has a university degree. Like Nara Smith herself has a modeling job, you know? And even in my own family, my auntie and uncle have a traditional marriage. They've lived in 2 houses their entire life. The house they grew up in and the house they have together now, where they moved into after they got married like 37 years ago or something. And they are in a very culty type religion. And still, my auntie has a part-time job, and she always has. She like goes and works at a garden center 2 times a week. You know, like there is some sort of independence that exists. And I think that that is important to be able to maintain a sense of self. And I think that it's important to know that you always have yourself, no matter what. I honestly don't know if I just made any sense. I had a full script written for this and I forgot how to read. My brain is very all over the place, but I hope this made sense and I hope that you understood what I'm trying to say. I would like for Nara Smith to get off my Twitter timeline now. I am very sick of seeing her, but you know, I don't see her going away anytime soon. Let me know your thoughts on the matter. Let me know what your thoughts are on Nara Smith and this entire thing, because I am fascinated. It's an interesting discussion and I have, as much as been annoyed by the conversation I've been seeing, I have also been interested in it and reading all of the tweets, which is possibly why they keep coming up on my timeline all the time. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. And while you're down in the comment section letting me know your thoughts, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. I put out new videos twice a week. I usually upload on Thursdays and Sundays, but that's been a little bit wobbly recently. That's what I aim for. And also hit the bell so you don't miss when I upload a video. They haven't been being put in subscription boxes a lot recently, I've been told, so do that so you don't miss out. A massive thank you to my Sprout and Above patrons whose names are up on the screen right now. I appreciate you so much. And a huge thank you to my Kiwi Cat patrons: Bobby, Josh, Mandy, Ikazel, Jessica, Eldo, Danielle, Raven, Elias, Chris, Samuel, and Knitting Menace. I love and appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for joining. If anyone else would like to become a patron, you go to patreon.com/savvycat or click the top link in the description. For as little as £1 a month, you get my videos a day early, as well as podcasts a week early. And then for £3 and up, you get things such as outtakes, bonus mini podcasts, live streams, vlogs, and more. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, The Queer Kiwi, and Twitter, That Queer Kiwi. Check out my music on Spotify, Apple Music, and all that under the name Savannah. Difficult to find. Click on the link in the description. It's a bit easier that way. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe. Keep fighting. I love you. Mwah. When you close your eyes, you replace the darkness with light. You replace the monster.